I came home for Christmas from medical deployment and asked my daughter, "Was the $1,400 I sent each month enough?" She looked confused. "What money?" My parents went pale. My sister changed the subject. I didn't yell. I did this. 3 days later, there was a knock at the door. I flew home for Christmas after a 6-month medical deployment and asked my daughter if the $1,400 I'd been sending every month had been enough. She looked at me puzzled. "What money?" she asked. Right then, my parents turned pale, and my sister quickly changed the subject. I didn't raise my voice. I just stayed quiet. 3 days later, someone knocked on the door. The turkey came out dry, like always. I kept my mouth shut. Half a year overseas, and this was the welcome: bland stuffing, cranberry jelly straight from the can, and that same cold, tense silence they'd always wrapped in a bow and called tradition. Emily sat across the table from me. She had just turned 18. First year of medical school. She had the same tired eyes I used to see in the mirror. Same rigid posture, too. Sitting upright like she was barely holding herself together, too tired to collapse, too proud to give in. Still, she looked good. Worn out, yeah, but in the way that showed she was pushing through something tough. Like she hadn't quit, even when it would have been easier. At some point I asked her again, "Was the $1,400 I sent each month enough?" She blinked like I'd asked her something in a different language. "Huh," she said. "The money," I explained. "The money I sent while I was deployed." She tilted her head a little. "What money?" "The $1,400. Every month," I said. She froze mid-bite, fork hanging in the air, then let it drop. Not dramatically, just enough to make a quiet clink. Across the table, my mom flinched like someone had just flipped on a harsh light. My dad shifted in his seat. My sister suddenly found her wine glass fascinating. "You sent that to me?" my daughter asked. I nodded. "Of course. For rent, textbooks, groceries. I thought you couldn't afford to," she said softly. Then even softer. "Helen told me." My sister chirped in with a fake bright voice. "Ooh, is that pecan pie over there? I thought we weren't doing dessert?" I kept my eyes on my daughter. "What did Helen say?" I asked. She looked around the table before answering. "She said you were under a lot of stress. That you wanted to help but couldn't. She told me not to bring it up, that it would upset you." The silence after that wasn't loud or angry. Just thick. My mom dabbed the corner of her mouth like she was in a soap opera. My dad calmly poured gravy like we weren't sitting in a burning building. My sister cleared her throat and muttered something about coffee, but didn't move. "Wait," my daughter said. "You really sent that money?" "Yes," I said. "To where?" "The same account as always, your grandfather's." I turned toward them. Not in anger. Just confused. "You told me she couldn't help," I said. My mom stood up suddenly. "Well, this is getting unpleasant. I'm going to make some tea." "You made me believe she didn't care," my daughter said, her voice steady, not angry, just realizing. "She's being dramatic," my sister mumbled. "She's exhausted," I said. "She's 18," my sister snapped. "Not everything revolves around her. She went through her first semester thinking I didn't care. That I just left her behind." Nobody said a word. My mom busied herself with teacups. My dad finally looked up. My sister poured herself more wine. Emily didn't move. No tears. No shouting. Just stunned. Like someone had yanked a rug out from under her, and she'd only now noticed. She looked right at me. I looked back. And in that moment, I knew she finally understood what had been happening all along. My dad cleared his throat. "Maybe we should all just take a moment," he said. My mom straightened the salt shaker like that was going to fix anything. "You told me she couldn't help," my daughter said again. "You told me she didn't care." "She didn't," my sister snapped. "Now she's just rewriting history to look like a hero." "I worked double shifts," my daughter said, voice cracking. "I barely slept." "Oh, please," my mom muttered. "You survived. Don't act like it's some great tragedy." "She spent her first semester thinking I abandoned her," I said. No one had a response to that. I stood up. Emily stood too. "I'm coming with you," she said. I didn't argue. I didn't look back at any of them. I just headed for the door. She followed. We didn't say a word in the car. Not until we were a few blocks away and my hands finally stopped shaking. She stared out the window, jaw clenched tight. I wanted to say something, anything, but I kept quiet. I know that silence. I've been there. Sitting next to someone who meant well, holding yourself together because you're afraid if you fall apart, You won't know how to piece yourself back again. I pulled into the first gas station with the lights still on and parked under a buzzing street lamp. Was it really every month? She asked quietly, almost like she didn't want the answer. Yeah, I said. 1,400 for you. 400 more for the house. I send it on the first of every month, like clockwork. Through Frank's account. Because of the currency conversion. She gave a small nod, eyes fixed on the windshield. She didn't blink. I watched her try to make sense of the storm brewing inside her. Anger? Heartbreak? Maybe both. You really thought I didn't want to help? I asked softly. She didn't respond. I almost reached for her hand but stopped myself. She wasn't ready for that kind of comfort. So I sat there, letting the truth fill the space between us. I thought I didn't matter. She whispered. That maybe you were finally free and just didn't want to come back. I shut my eyes. No, I said. Never. We sat a while longer, just the two of us, parked under a flickering light, trying to thaw years of betrayal that had been frozen over. Eventually, we drove to a small hotel on the outskirts of town. Everything else was closed. It was Christmas, after all. The night clerk didn't ask any questions. I handed over my card and didn't blink at the price. The room was plain, quiet, washed in soft yellow light. 2 beds, a couple chairs, and a coffee machine that probably hadn't worked since Bush was in office. Emily slipped off her shoes and sat on the edge of the bed. I couldn't even buy groceries sometimes, she said. Skipped class here and there just to squeeze in more shifts. And every time I thought about asking you, I'd hear Helen's voice. She's doing her best. Don't be a burden. I sat down next to her, not touching, just close. She made you feel like asking for help was wrong, I said. She nodded. So I stopped asking. I swallowed the lump in my throat. I know what that's like. After she fell asleep, I opened my laptop. First thing I did was log into the bank. I canceled the $400 I'd been sending my parents every month. Just like that, gone. Then I just sat there, staring at the screen. They robbed her of so much. What else had they taken? My heart pounded. The house. My house. The one my sister, Brianna, begged to stay in while I was away. Said rent was too steep. Said they'd take care of the place. The deal was simple. They'd cover the mortgage, keep the house in order, and I wouldn't have to worry about a thing. That's the only reason I never put it on the market. I could have rented it out to actual tenants. Could have earned some steady income. But instead I handed over the keys to my sister and told myself it'd be alright. I mean, it's family, what could go wrong? I logged into the online mortgage portal. And just stared at the screen. No payments had been made. Not for months. I froze. My mind scrambled for an excuse. Maybe the site was acting up. Maybe it hadn't updated yet. Maybe. But no. The information was all there. Clear as day. Month after month, not a single payment. I sat with my laptop balanced on my knees, feeling like I might throw up. If no one had been paying the mortgage, had I just lost the house? 3 days from then, I'd be knocking on my sister's door, and nothing after that would be the same. But let's back things up a bit. At 5 years old, I couldn't have told you how many different moms I'd had. There was the one with the chipped rabbit mug. One who always had a menthol hanging from her lip. Another who kept the fridge locked tight. I don't remember their names anymore, just the smells of their homes, the ceilings I stared at, the different ways they said dinner. One woman told me I couldn't see a doctor because there aren't enough doctors for things like that. I think that's when it started, that wanting. That little idea that maybe I could grow up to be the person I needed back then. And that thought stuck with me. Never let go. My parents adopted me when I was 5.5. After years of tests and doctor visits and people saying, just relax and it'll happen, they decided to open their home to a kid who needed one. Their words, not mine. That first year was straight out of a feel-good commercial. New toys. Hot meals. Matching pajamas for Christmas. I was their big project, and they were determined to do it right. I learned to say, thank you, without being reminded. I learned not to cry, even when I was scared. I learned how to blend in. They were trying, really trying. Those are what I call the happy years. And yeah, I still feel guilty saying that. Because then the miracle happened. When I was 10, my mom got pregnant, naturally. After all the odds, all the doctors saying it was nearly impossible, she glowed. They cried. Neighbors showed up with casseroles. And when that baby was born, everything shifted. Suddenly, I wasn't the miracle anymore. I was the extra piece. The before picture. The backup actor hanging out behind the curtains. They didn't do it on purpose. That's what people always say. But when she smiled, they cheered. When I brought home an A, I got a polite nod. When she cried, they jumped to help. When I cried, they asked if I was overreacting. I started hearing it in whispers, that line. You should be grateful we saved you from the system. Later, it turned into, you should be grateful we did all this for you. And I was grateful. I tried to show it with grades. With chores. With silence. Meanwhile, my sister didn't need to prove anything. She just had to exist. She had music lessons, birthday parties, and a bedroom straight out of a catalog. I had old posters and thrift store clothes. When she broke a dish, it was a learning opportunity. When I did it, it was a sign of bad character. But I loved her. Of course I did. She was my little sister. She didn't know any different. When college came around, I didn't ask my parents for help. The thought didn't even cross my mind. Asking felt selfish. I believed I should figure it out on my own. I told myself it'd be this noble journey, long work shifts, late night studying, and I'd come out the other side a self-made man. In truth, I was flat out drained. One time, I passed out waiting for the bus and only woke up when a stranger poked me with a pen. But I made it. Barely. And once I had my degree and started working, I felt like I owed them. They'd taken me in, after all. So I chipped in here and there, paid a bill, helped with vacations. When my sister went off to college, I even paid a chunk of her tuition. It was never really discussed. Just expected. That's how things worked in our family. My success was treated like their savings account. Even after I got married and moved abroad, the money kept flowing. My dad had set up a special account to make international transfers easier. Lower fees. Better rates. So I kept using it. Sent money every month. Like clockwork. After my husband and I separated, he stayed overseas. I didn't. I came back home with my daughter. She was just a year old then. Fierce. Loud. Startled by everything. I didn't have much, but I had her. And I swore I'd never let her feel like an afterthought. When she turned 18, she told me she wanted to go to med school. I said yes before she even finished the sentence. But med school isn't cheap. There's tuition, rent, books, food, lab costs. And I knew my job alone couldn't cover all that. So I volunteered for deployment. It was hard leaving her. But the pay was better, and she was already heading off to the dorms. I promised I'd send her money every month, $1,400 for her living costs. Plus $400 extra to help my parents with the house. Same setup as always. Same account. My dad's. And for a while, I thought everything was running smooth. We talked on Zoom every now and then. Not a lot. She always looked worn out and distant. I figured she was just adjusting to college life. She never mentioned money, so I assumed things were all right. I thought I had it all under control. Until Christmas. Until that overcooked turkey and one simple question. Was the $1,400 enough? And my daughter blinked and asked, what $1,400? That night, I logged back into the mortgage portal. This time I really looked. No payments for months. At first I freaked out. Was the house already lost? Were they letting it slide into foreclosure? Then I saw a small note. Temporary hardship pause. Approved. Filed under my name. No foreclosure, just a pause in payments. I let out a breath. The house was safe. But someone had pretended to be me. Filed documents. Claimed hardship. Used my identity. And I knew there was only one person who could have pulled that off. 3 days later, I'd be knocking on my sister's door. But before that, I made a call. I reached out to my friend Logan. Back when I was pulling long shifts in the ER, Logan was a broke law student, and I quietly covered his overdue dental bills more than once. Now he's a lawyer. Sharp as a tack. And his memory's better than he pretends. He answered on the second ring. Hey stranger, he said. Still out there saving the world one shift at a time? Something like that, I said. Apparently I've also been sponsoring fraud without knowing it. That got his full attention. Half an hour later, we were sitting across from each other in a mostly empty diner. Logan wore a mismatched coat and hoodie. I hadn't even changed, still in the same jeans and airport jacket. I didn't bother ordering coffee. Just slid my laptop across the table and opened the folder. Bank records. Transfer records, screenshots from the mortgage site, every piece of evidence I had. Logan scrolled through them. Then scrolled again. And finally let out a slow breath. She actually impersonated you? He asked. Looks like it, I said. And this account, your folks knew the $1,400 was going to your daughter? Yeah, I nodded. Every single month. Like clockwork. He clicked through some of the messages I'd forwarded. My mom thanking me for taking care of the kid. My dad confirming when to expect the next deposit. My sister? Well, she never thanked anybody. But she sure didn't hesitate to cash those payments. And the house? Logan asked. I've got it in writing, I told him. My sister agreed to cover the mortgage while she lived there. Did she sign it? He asked. She typed her name on the document, I said. Electronic agreement. I needed something on file for the bank before heading overseas. They wanted proof the place wouldn't sit vacant. Logan gave a slow nod. And the texts, they clearly show the $1,400 was meant for your daughter? Yes. You realize this is solid, right? He said. Not just a civil matter. This could be criminal. I stared at him. Do I win? I asked. Depends, he said. You want them broke or behind bars? I want them to stop pretending I owe them my life, I said. Logan looked up at me then. Really looked. And said, then it's time we start knocking on some doors. The next morning, we pulled up to my house. Felt strange even calling it that, my house. After all this time. I hadn't seen it in over 6 months. I'd been planning to rent it out. Maybe sell it. But my sister had called me up crying, going on about how hard it was to find a decent place to live. So I handed her the keys. Gave her a roof. In return, she was supposed to pay the mortgage. Like any tenant would. But she wasn't a tenant anymore. She was a squatter, and a thief, with a paper trail to prove it. Logan stepped out of the car holding a manila envelope. Calm. Businesslike. Like it was just another Tuesday. I knocked on the door. It creaked open halfway. My sister blinked at me, then let out a laugh. Well, well. Look who finally came home. I brought you something, I said, and handed her the envelope. She opened it. Eviction notice, she read aloud. Oh honey. That's adorable. Logan gave her a polite smile. Legally binding. 30 days. She rolled her eyes. Don't stress. I'm moving out anyway. Already bought a place. I stared at her. You what? She shrugged. It's done. Got the keys already. Merry Christmas to me. That's when I noticed the boxes stacked behind her. Taped. Labeled. Half the house already packed up. She wasn't bluffing. And then I saw them, my parents. In the kitchen. Wrapping dishes. Helping her. What's happening here? I asked. You're all just here? We're helping her move. My mom said, like it was the most normal thing in the world. I'm sorry, how exactly did she afford a house? I asked. With money. My sister snapped. You remember what that is, don't you? I stepped inside. Boxes lined the walls. Tupperware. Family photos. Where did the down payment come from? I asked. She grinned. From not wasting money on rent. Logan raised an eyebrow. She means the mortgage she was supposed to be paying. Tomato, tomato, she said. I turned to my parents. And you're okay with this? My dad crossed his arms. She needed a place to live. You weren't using it. I wasn't using it because I was deployed. I snapped. Killing myself overseas to support my daughter, and you. Oh, please, my mom muttered. Don't act like we forced you. You took the money meant for her. I said. We needed it more, my sister said flatly. Your daughter was fine. She was juggling 2 jobs and surviving on cereal. I said. She thought I'd abandoned her. She didn't die. My mom shot back. Stop being dramatic. Logan stepped forward, cool and calm. We'll be in touch, he said. You'll be hearing from us again. About the mortgage, the stolen funds, and the impersonation. My sister rolled her eyes. Whatever. I've moved on. I looked straight at her. You stole from my daughter. You lied to me. You pretended to be me, to a bank. You think this is over because you packed some boxes? She smirked. You're just jealous I'm better at life than you. That's when I stopped wasting words. Logan handed her the second envelope. This one was thicker. What's this? She asked. A formal demand, he said. Repayment of the mortgage for 6 months. Full restitution. That's $16,800. Plus damages. She let out a laugh. Damages? You impersonated her to pause the loan, Logan said flatly. She shrugged. You should be grateful. I bought you time. The house didn't go into foreclosure. You act like I trashed the place. My mom folded her arms. She's your sister. I turned to her. You told my daughter I didn't care about her. She was being dramatic. She skipped meals, I said. She's 18. Time to grow up. My mom snapped. I looked around the room, my sister boxing up plates that weren't hers, my dad polishing silverware he never paid for, my mom defending the whole mess. And I said, "I'll see you in court." That night, I went to visit my daughter. She opened the door looking worn down, but steady. She had a paper in one hand and a pencil tucked behind her ear. "Sorry I didn't call earlier," I said. She stepped aside. "Figured you were busy suing people." We sat on her bed, side by side. "I confronted them," I said. "They didn't deny a thing." She nodded. "Figured. I also found out they used your money to help her buy a house." Her face barely changed. Just this slow, quiet kind of stillness. "Okay," she said. "That's not okay. I mean, it makes sense. To them. I've always been optional." "Not to me," I said. "I know," she whispered. I looked around her small room. Sticky notes on the wall. Fast food wrappers. A second-hand kettle with no lid. "You won't have to work 2 jobs anymore," I told her. "I'll take care of it." She nodded. "Do you hate them?" I asked. "I don't think about them," she said. "I don't have the space for it." I reached out for her hand. This time, she let me take it. And we sat there. Quiet. But this silence felt different, like something finally beginning to heal. "They said it wasn't theft." That was their opening line in court. Their lawyer, some stiff in a wrinkled suit that didn't quite fit, stood up, looked the judge in the eye, and said, "Your Honor, the money was a gift." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was so incredibly stupid, so offensive, that laughing was the only thing keeping me from shouting. $1,400, he said. Per month. Sent through the grandfather's account. No formal terms attached. He actually seemed proud of that argument. My lawyer stood up, calm as ever. "We have text messages," my lawyer said, "where the plaintiff clearly specifies the money was for her daughter's tuition and living expenses." The judge gave a nod. "Let's see them." We passed her the screenshots. The ones where I'd written, "Just sent her college money for November. Same amount as always. And please make sure it goes to her." And another one, "If I'm a day late sending it, just transfer it anyway, please." The opposing lawyer skimmed through the messages, then pivoted hard like he trained for gymnastics. "Well," he said, "that may have been the plaintiff's intention, but there's no clear evidence that the recipients agreed to those terms. No formal agreement. No contract." If I rows counted as legal objections, we would have won the case right there. Then came the real show. They called my dad to the stand. He walked up like he was heading to the pulpit. Raised his right hand, swore to tell the truth. "Emily's a doctor," he started. "She's done well for herself. When she began sending that money, we saw it as her way of saying thanks. We raised her, after all. We rescued her from the system. We didn't ask for that money. She gave it freely." He looked genuinely misty-eyed saying that. Then my sister took the stand. And if my dad gave a sermon, she put on a full-blown solo Broadway performance. She flipped her hair, bit her lip, spoke in soft tones. "I was really struggling back then," she said. "My boyfriend and I could barely get by. When she offered the house, I was thankful. I told her I'd try to cover the mortgage. But it wasn't, like, a legal thing." My lawyer raised an eyebrow. "Did you, or did you not, sign an agreement stating you'd pay the mortgage in exchange for living there?" She stared at her shoes. "I mean, yeah, but it was just, like, informal. Sisters help each other." And then they pulled their last trick. They claimed the mortgage pause was my idea. Their lawyer stood up and said I'd called my sister in a panic, worried I'd lose the house, and asked her to file for a hardship pause on my behalf. She was abroad, he said. It made sense for her sister to handle domestic matters. I almost choked on air. My lawyer stood immediately. "Your Honor, that directly contradicts the signed mortgage agreement. And more importantly, we have a legally recorded conversation where the defendant admits impersonating my client." The judge's head snapped up. "Play it." So we did. It was from my phone. I'd started recording the night we handed my sister the eviction notice. Right after she joked about already buying her new place. I'd hit record before we even knocked. Now that clip echoed through the courtroom. Logan's voice. "You impersonated her to pause the loan." Then my sister's voice, bright, smug. "You should be grateful I paused the payments for you so the house didn't go into foreclosure. You act like I trashed the place." The courtroom went stone silent. Her lawyer slowly lowered his pen. The judge leaned back in her chair and muttered, "Well, that's enlightening." And from that moment on, their entire defense deflated like a balloon that someone forgot to tie. The judge ruled in our favor. Full repayment. Damages. legal fees. But of course, there was a catch. My sister didn't have the money. She'd already spent it, used it as a down payment on the new house. A house she technically owned now, but couldn't actually afford. She cried in the hallway. Begged to pay in installments. Said it wasn't fair. The judge didn't flinch. 2 weeks later, after she failed to pay the court-ordered amount, the judge approved a transfer of ownership. The house she bought with stolen money? Now legally mine. Her share of equity lined up almost exactly with what she owed. It didn't happen fast. But it was, without question, satisfying. So just like that, the house she bragged about belonged to me. The next morning I called my rental agent. Now I had 2 houses. 2 tenants. 2 steady streams of income. Then I called my daughter. She didn't say I told you so. She just said, "So, we won?" And I said, "We did." She smiled. "I quit my second job." "Good," I told her. "You deserve to sleep again." She paused. "Is it okay if I keep the barista job? Just like once a week? I kind of like it." "Sure," I said. "Whatever makes you happy." I went back on deployment after that, for another 6 months. Not because I had to. Just wanted a little cushion before coming home for good. This time, everything was different. The money went straight to her. Her rent. Her food. Her textbooks. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't just scraping by. And neither was I. We Zoomed every Sunday. She'd show me her notes, her stethoscope, her now quiet dorm room. Sometimes she'd say things like, "It's weird how easy school feels now." And I'd nod, because I understood. When you've been drowning for years, breathing feels like a luxury. 6 months later I came home. We hugged in the airport parking lot. No speeches. No tears. Just warmth. She looked different. Lighter. Brighter. The exhaustion was gone. We found her a small apartment near campus. I didn't move in, God no, but we had dinner together every week. Sometimes more. We talked about her future. Med school. Specialties. Life. And family, or what was left of it. "I blocked Helen," she said one night while stirring spaghetti. "And Frank. And Aunt Brianna." "Good," I said. "I don't feel bad." "You shouldn't." We clinked forks like they were wine glasses. That house they bought with stolen money? Now it funds her future. And me? I don't miss them. Not their birthdays. Not their passive-aggressive comments. Not their silence. Some families break apart. Others you have to cut yourself loose from. Either way, you breathe easier afterward. And for the first time in years, I can breathe again. So, did I go too far? Or maybe not nearly far enough? People say family is everything. But tell me, what kind of family turns its back on your child? Let me know in the comments. And hey, if this story hit home for you, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and tap the bell. You won't want to miss what comes next.